Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about factoring quadratic expressions. So based on the last two things that we've done, we're going to build off of those two things. We're actually going to put them together to be able to factor quadratic expressions. Remember, all of this is to basically undo the idea of simplification. So if I give you a problem that says 2x plus 3 times x minus 5 as an example, and I ask you to simplify that, you would rewrite that as 2x times x minus 5 plus 3 times x minus 5. And then we would distribute, so you end up with 2x squared minus 10x plus 3x minus 15. And then you end up with 2x squared minus 7x minus 15 when you combine like terms. So this is the simplified form. This is the simplified form. This up here is the factored form. We have been simplifying expressions for a couple months now. Now we're going to be working on how do we go from the simplified form back up to the factored form, because there are definitely benefits to having the factored form. But keep that in mind as we go through this, that everything we're doing is just undoing this process, okay? So again, our goal is to be able to factor a quadratic expression, specifically a trinomial with the three terms, a 2-degree polynomial, essentially, with 3 terms, okay? So before we do that, remember we did this activity a few days ago where we took two numbers and we wanted to figure out what two numbers would multiply to one of them and add to the other one. So the example that I might give you is what is a set of numbers that multiplies to 8 and adds to 6? Now, I gave you a kind of a method, or just a diagram to work with here. It's the X method, the X box, I guess you could call it, okay? What we want to do is we want to put the number that we are trying to get the two numbers to multiply up here, and the two numbers that we're trying to get to add to down here. So if I look at the two numbers that I want to multiply to 8. So we're going to put an 8 on top, and if that said -8, we put a -8 on top. And we want the number to add to 6, so we're going to put the 6 on the bottom. We're trying to figure out what multiplies to 8 and what adds to 6. So what I like to do is I like to list my factors, okay? I like to list my factors of 8. So I'll put 8 over here and I'll say, okay, what multiplies to 8? In our case, there's only two options. 1 times 8. We always start with the smallest number first and then build our way up. And then 2, 8 is divisible by 2. 2 times 4 gives us 8. And really that's it, because if we were to go on, 3 doesn't work, 4 works, but then you'd end up with 4 times 2. And then we're just repeating our numbers. So once you get to a point that you are repeating, you don't have to go any further. So those are our two options. Then from here, I want to know the numbers that will add up to 6. Add up to 6. Now, what I do off to the side, I might go like this. I might say the bigger number, so I'll say 8 plus 1, and I'll do 8 minus 1. Okay, I'm kind of doing these things in my head, but just to show you what it is. 8 plus 1 is 9, and 8 minus 1 is 7. Neither one of those work because I need 6. So I know that 1 times 8 is not an option. Okay, so now we go on to 2 and 4. So we'll say 4 plus 2, and we'll say 4 minus 2. Well, 4 plus 2 is 6, and 4 minus 2 is 2. And look at that. We wanted 6 when we either added them or subtracted them. So we know that it's going to be this set of numbers, 2 and 4. The next question is, what kind of signs do these need to be? Well, because I want them to add to 6, and I see that it took addition to make a 6, I know that these two numbers have to be the same sign. So they're either going to be both negative, or they're both going to be positive numbers. Well, if they're both negative and I add them up, I would end up with -6. And if they're both positive, I'd end up with +6. So that tells me that they both have to be positive. And then I'm going to check my work because I want to make sure that they multiply to this 8 up here. Well, +2 times +4 is in fact +8. So my two numbers here are going to be +2 and +4. Okay, so that is just a quick practice in finding relationships between numbers, but that's going to help us out today when we go to factor these quadratics. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and do a couple other practice problems with this. You guys go ahead and pause the video, and then when you think you have it, come back and see how you did. All right, for number one, we are looking for, we're going to set up our x here. We're looking for what multiplies to the first number, so it multiplies to negative 12, and what adds to negative 1. So we're going to go over here, we're going to list our factors. That's going to be 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Those are all my options. From here, we're looking for which one is going to give me a 1 or a negative 1. Well, if I add the 1 and the 12, that gives me 13. If I subtract them, that will give me 11, right? If I say 12 plus 1, that's 13. And if I say 12 minus 1, that's 11. So that doesn't work. We know it's not that. Same thing here. 6 plus 2 is 8. 6 minus 2 is 4, but I need negative 1, so that doesn't work. 3 and 4 will work because if I say 4 plus 3, well, that's 7. That doesn't make sense. But 4 minus 3 is 1. So we know that the numbers are going to be 3 and 4. Now we have to determine the signs, okay? Since it took subtraction to get to the 1, that tells me that one of the numbers is positive and the other one is negative, okay? Because I want a negative number, that tells me that the bigger number must be negative, right? In order for me to get a negative number when I add two things together, the bigger one must be negative. And then I can check my work. 3 times negative 4 is in fact negative 12. So my two numbers are 3 and negative 4. Okay. For the second one, let's go ahead and go over that one. Number 2, we have 18 and 9. So we're looking for what multiplies to positive 18 and adds to negative 9. So we're going to list our factors for 18. That would be 1 times 18, 2 times 9, and 3 times 6. Out of these, which one can give me a 9? Well, 1 plus 18 is 19. 18 minus 1 is 17, so that doesn't work because I need a 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. 9 minus 2 is 7. That doesn't work. 6 plus 3 is 9. 6 minus 3 is 3. So we do get the 9 when we take the 3 and the 6 and we add them together. Because we're adding here, that tells me that the two numbers have to be the same sign. So that means they're either going to be both positive or both negative. Well, in order to get the negative 9 out of here, that tells me that they both have to be negative numbers. Negative 3 and negative 6 do in fact give me negative 9, okay? So we know that they're both going to be negative. Again, we're going to make sure our answer makes sense. Negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18. A negative times a negative is a positive number. So we know that the two numbers here are going to be negative 3 and negative 6. Again, this is just practice your number sense skills, adding and subtracting, multiplying positive and negative numbers. And those are very important skills as we are going to use them in our factors, okay? So let's go ahead and get into the actual process of factoring here. Okay, so factoring by grouping. Well, we actually know how to factor by grouping. We know that step. We're going to take it one step further back and add a little bit more to this. So this process, there's a 7-step process. But really, if you know what we've done in the last couple lessons, it won't feel like it's 7 steps, okay? So first of all, step 1 in factoring by grouping is to make sure that you write the problem or the expression in standard form. So remember, standard form is the highest exponent first, and then the next highest exponent, and then the constant. Specifically here, you want the x squareds to go first, then the x, and then the non-x expressions, okay? So that's the first step. Write the quadratic in standard form. Step 2, it says determine what multiplies to a times c and what adds to b. And this step 2 is your x step, is your x box, the examples that we just went over. And we'll look at an example of what this looks like in just a second. But step 2 is your x box, okay? So step 1 is just rewriting it in standard form. We've done that. Step 2 is your x box. We've done that. Step 3 is to expand the quadratic. And that means instead of writing it with 3 terms, we're going to write it with 4 terms. And you'll see an example of this in a second. The reason we want 4 terms is so that we can factor by grouping. So we can group the terms together like we did in the last lesson. And then when we group the terms together, we can find the factors of each of those groups. And then from there, we can rewrite it. Okay? So, and then after that, of course, our last step should be to check our answer. And we'll do that in our first example here. So our first example is negative 5x minus 12 plus 2x squared. And our goal is to factor this. So let's look at step 1. Step 1 says to write the quadratic in standard form. So we're going to write 2x squared minus 5x minus 12. So that is our standard form. Step 2, it says determine what multiplies to a times c and what adds to b. So first thing I want to do is off to the side, I'm going to write this down. A is 2, right? It's the number in front of the x squared. B is negative 5. And c is negative 12. So what we want to do is set up our x. It says what multiplies to a times c. So a times c is going to go on top. And b is going to go on the bottom. What multiplies to this and adds to this. So let's set up our x now and plug in our numbers. A times c, 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. And then b is negative 5. And so here is our x box that we've been working with over the last few days. So we're going to list our factors for 24 here. Our factors for 24 are 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. Okay, 5 doesn't work. 6 works, but 6 is a repeat of the previous one, 6 times 4, so we can cross that one out. Now we want to figure out what adds up to the 5 or the negative 5. Well, 1 and 24 won't. 2 and 12 won't. 3 and 8 will. 4 and 6 won't. Okay, 3 and 8 can make 5. Well, how do we get 5 out of that? Do I add the two numbers or do I subtract them? Well, 8 plus 3 or 8 minus 3. 8 plus 3 is 11. 8 minus 3 is 5. So we know that our numbers are going to be 3 and 8. And because we're subtracting here, one of the numbers will be positive and the other one will be negative. In order to get a negative 5, when I add them, that means that the bigger number must be negative. So 3 is positive and 8 is negative. We can check our work to make sense, make sure it makes sense. Positive 3 times negative 8 is in fact negative 24. So the two numbers that we get out of this are positive 3 and negative 8. And so that is step 2. Step 2 is a doozy of a step because the first thing you have to do is fill out your X box. And this number isn't directly given. This top number is just taking your A value and your C value and multiplying them together. 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. And then your bottom number is your middle term, your B value. Now, step 3 says to expand your quadratic. Well, because I'm going to just rewrite this here, 2x squared minus 5x minus 12, I'm going to rewrite this quadratic. But instead of using negative 5, I'm going to replace it with 3 and negative 8. And you'll see what that looks like. First thing I want you to know is that the first term, the 2x squared, that's going to stay the same, 2x squared. The last term is going to stay the same. We're going to put negative 12. But we're going to expand this middle term. So we're going to replace this middle term, this negative 5x, with something that's equivalent using the two numbers that I got here. So this is going to say plus 3x and minus 8x. Okay, where did I get that? Well, I want these two things to add up to negative 5x. 3x and negative 8x do make negative 5x when I combine them. And I got them from here, 3 and negative 8, 3x and negative 8x. So we just replace the middle term with the two terms that we got from our x box. Okay, so that is expanding the quadratic. And then from here, we can factor by grouping. Okay, so we take the first two terms and we find the GCF there. Well, the GCF out of 2 and 3 is just 1. right? So I'll put a 1 there. We don't need to, but I'll put a 1 there. And the GCF out of x squared and x is x. Then from here, what's left over? Well, a 2x is left over and a 3 is left over. So that is my factors of my first group. My second group, negative 8x and negative 12, well, maybe you need a little bit more practice with factoring. So let's go ahead and factor the negative 8. The negative 8 factors to, well, first of all, it factors to negative 1 times something. Let's do our cake method. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. So my factors of 8 are negative 1, 2, 2, and 2. Okay. For negative 12, when we know one of the factors is negative 1 because it's a negative, we'll do the cake method. Divided by 2 is 6, divided by 2 is 3, and then divided by 3 is 1. So my factors here are 2, 2, and 3. So out of these, what are the common factors? Well, we have negative 1, we have a 2 in both of them, and we have another 2 in both of them. So we multiply those together. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 4. And then we figure out what's left over. Well, we have a 2 left over here. So we would put 2x because there was an x here. And then we have a 3 left over there. So we're going to put plus 3 and then close our parentheses. We want to double check our work to make sure it makes sense. 1x times 2x is 2x squared. 1x times 3 is 3x. Negative 4 times 2x is negative 8x. And negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. So we know we're on the right track here. And then another indication that we're doing the right thing is that the numbers that are in the parentheses are exactly the same. So remember, from here we take the terms on the outside and we put them in one factor. So this will say 1x minus 4. And then we take the terms that is in the parentheses, and because they match, we can write those as our other factors. So we have 2x plus 3. And so those are our factors. We could simplify a little bit to just say x minus 4 times 2x plus 3. So that is our factored form. And again, I realize that that is a long process, okay? But really, again, emphasizing the fact that we are just undoing our work here. The way we check our work is we expand. So we would say x times 2x plus 3, and then minus 4 times 2x plus 3. Well, look at that. That's exactly what I have here. Or sorry, that's exactly what I have up here. Okay. Then from here we would distribute. X times 2x is 2x squared. X times 3 is 3x. Negative 4 times 2x is negative 8x. And negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. And then we can combine like terms from there and we get our original thing. So this is the completely factored form of our original expression of negative 5x, negative 5x minus 12 plus 2x squared. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and make sure I am correct before I go on. So we're going to identify our A, B, and C's after we write it in standard form. A times C is going to go in the upper box. That's negative 24. You can ignore the x squared there. B is going to go in the bottom box. That's negative 5. We list our factors of 24, and we recognize that 3 and A work. And specifically, it's going to end up being a positive 3 and a negative 8. Then we expand, so it'll be 2x squared plus 3x, and then minus 8x minus 12. And then we group, and we factor each of the groups. So the GCF there is x. Left over is 2x plus 3. The GCF on the next one is negative 4 times 2x plus 3. And then we would group, so we end up with 2x plus 3 and x minus 4. And notice the way I wrote it is actually backwards to the way I wrote it here, and it doesn't matter. Whichever way works for you is fine, okay? All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some examples. We checked our work, and it looks good. So let's go ahead and take a look at 3 more problems. What I would like you to do is do these on your own and pause the video. And then once you think you have your answers, come back and compare your answers to mine. All right, for number 4, we have x squared plus 12x plus 32. Well, let's go through the steps. Step 1 says write this in standard form. It already is. So that's good. Next step is to identify our A, B, and C values. So in this case, A is 1, B is 12, and C is 32. So now when we set up our X, the number on top, remember, is A times C. It's A times C. So A times C, 1 times 32 is 32. And our number on the bottom, the number that adds to, is B. So B is 12. And just in case you forget that, I'm gonna write it right here. It's A times B. Sorry, A times C. Where am I getting that from? Ignore that. Let's do it again. It's A times C on top and B on the bottom. Okay? So A times C is 32, B is 12. So we got to figure out what multiplies to 32 and adds to 12. So we're going to list our factors of 32. That's 1 times 32, 2 times 16, 4 times 8, and I believe that's it. Well, out of all of these, the 4 and the 8 can make the 12. So I know it's 4 and 8. Now I have to determine signs. What would I have to do to 4 and 8 to get to 12? Well, I'd have to add them, which means both of them have the same signs. And then because I want them to add to positive 12, they'd both have to be positive. And checking, positive 4 times positive 8 is positive 32, so we're good there. So we did step 2. Step 3 is to expand the quadratic. So we're going to take the x squared plus 12x plus 32 and simply rewrite it. The first term, the x squared, is the same. The 32 is the same. The only thing that changes is the 12x gets replaced with 4x and 8x. So we'd say plus 4x plus 8x and then plus 32. So the only thing we changed out of this trinomial is that we expanded the middle term to 4x and 8x, okay? If 4x plus 8x does not equal 12x, then we did something wrong. And that's why we did the x grouping here. All right, that was step 3. Let's move on to step 4. Step 4 says to group these guys. So we can see that there's no coefficient in front of the x squared, or the coefficient is 1. So the GCF there is going to be 1, but we also have an x, so it'll be x. And then leftover of x squared is x, and leftover of 4x is 4. Checking our work, x times x is x squared, x times 4 is 4x. Then we will group the second set of terms and find the GCF there. You should be able to do this hopefully by now kind of in your head, but I'll do it just one more time here. 8 factors to 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, that's 8. And then 32 factors to 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. So what do these factors have in common? Well, they have a 2. They have a 2 there, a second 2, and a third 2. So when I multiply all that together, 2 times 2 times 2 is in fact 8. And then they don't both have an x, so I can't take an x out. And then 8x divided by 8 is x, or in other words, 8 times what gives you 8x, 8 times x. 8 times what gives you 32, that'd be 4. We know we did this right because the two terms inside the parentheses are correct, or are the same, I should say. Then we take the two terms outside and rewrite those in one parenthesis. And the term inside the parentheses that's the same, we can write that as the second parenthesis. Again, we can check our work by expanding it all out, but that's basically working backwards. X plus 8 times x plus 4 is x times x plus 4 plus 8 times x plus 4. We distribute, we end up with this. Combine like terms, we end up with our original. So this is our factored form for number 4, okay? And I realize, guys, this is going to take some practice. Do not expect to fully understand it on day 1. There's a lot of steps going on here. And if you need help, please reach out to me, okay? For number 5, let's take a look at that one. Number 5 says 3x squared plus 8x minus 11. All right, 3x squared plus 8x minus 11. Write it in standard form. It already is. Okay, so then we're going to identify our a value, which is 3, our b value, which is 8, and our c value, which is negative 11. We set up our x box. Remember, a times c goes on top. So a times c, 3 times negative 11 is negative 33. B goes on the bottom, so B is 8. And we're trying to figure out what multiplies to 33 and adds to 8. So we're going to list our factors for 33. That would be 1 times 33. 2 doesn't work because 33 is odd. 3 works because we can add the digits. 3 plus 3 is 6. That's divisible by 3. 3 times 11 gives us 33. And I think that's it. That's all we have. Obviously, 1 times 33 cannot add up or subtract to 8. So we know it's 3 and 11. Now, do I have to add these up? So do I say 11 plus 3 or do I say 11 minus 3? Well, it's 11 minus 3 to get to an 8. So I know that one of these is positive and one of these is negative. Because this is a positive number, that tells me the bigger number has to be positive and the smaller number has to be negative. Negative 3 times positive 11 is negative 33, so we're good. Now we'll move on to step 3, which is to expand. So we're going to rewrite our original trinomial. The first term is going to stay the same. It'll say 3x squared. Our last term will stay the same, so it'll say minus 11. And then we're going to replace the 8x with these values. So instead of 8x, we're going to put negative 3x and 11x. Okay? And then we're going to go ahead and group. So we're going to factor this one, and we're going to factor those ones separately. What's the GCF of 3x squared and 3x? Well, that would be 3x. What's remaining out of 3x squared is just x. And check it, 3x times x is 3x squared. What's remaining out of the negative 3x is just going to be negative 1. The GCF out of 11x and negative 11 is going to be 11. What's remaining? Well, 11 times what gives you x? Sorry, 11 times what gives you 11x? That would be x. And 11 times what gives you negative 11? That would be a negative 1. And so we did it right because the parentheses match. So now we put the first group together, the outside together. So we end up with 3x plus 11. And then the next group is what's inside the parentheses. Since those match, we can put x minus 1. Again, checking our work by multiplying that out, it should be equivalent to our original problem of 3x squared plus 8x minus 11. And in fact, it is. So that is number 5. Okay? All right, last problem here. Hopefully you're getting a better grasp of these things as we go along. It's 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. Well, we got to set up our x. And instead of listing them, and you can, that's fine if you do, a times a, b, and c. Remember the top number is a times c, so a is 2, c is 6, 2 times 6 is 12. That goes on the top. B goes on the bottom, so that's 7 there. And we're going to list our factors now of 12. That's 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. Well, which one of those will give me a 7 when I add or subtract? That's going to be the 3 and the 4, so I know that those numbers are there. Now we have to check our signs. So did I have to add 3 and 4 to get to 7, or do I have to subtract them? Well, 4 minus 3 is 1. 4 plus 3 is 7, so I know I have to add. Because that's a positive number, or sorry, because I'm adding, that tells me that the signs are the same. If it's a positive number, that means that they both have to be positive. And positive 3 times positive 4 is in fact 12. Our next step is to expand. So this will say 2x squared plus 3x plus 4x plus 6. And how did I get that? Well, the first term is the same. The last term is the same. The middle term is rewritten. So instead of 7x, we're going to put 3x and 4x. Okay. Then from here, we're going to go ahead and group. The GCF out of the first one, 2 and 3, both are prime numbers. So the GCF is 1 there. So we're not going to write that down. And then out of the x's, the GCF is x. Left over here is going to be 2x. Left over there is going to be 3. Then for the second group, the GCF out of 4 and 6 is 2. They don't have a common x factor, so we're not going to take an x out. Leftovers, well, 4x. To get to 4x from 2, I have to multiply that by 2x. To get to 6 from 2, I have to multiply that by 3. I know I did it right because those are the same. So I'm just going to take the outside ones and write those down as one factor, and then take the two that are inside that are the same and write those down as the other factor. And so this is my factored form for number 6. All right. With that said, that wraps up the lesson for today. Make sure I did all those right. They look pretty good to me. They're just written backwards, and that's perfectly fine. If you have any questions, please, please, please ask me for help. Come in for tutoring. Come in during our Zoom meetings ready to ask questions. So if you need to put a little question mark next to something that you don't understand, write a little note, highlight it, whatever it is, to prompt you to remember to ask me for help when we meet again. With that said, have a great evening, and I'll talk to you next time.